So you can quick start a project using MongoDB instead of SQL Alchemy if you want. This is a good example of how TurboGears works. Here we have the root controller, which by default serves the root of our website, and it has a movie method. So whenever someone requests for a movie, the request gets handled by the method which is called movie, because we have a movie method inside the root controller. So the movie part of the root URL is served by the movie method of the root controller. Using the expose decorators, we can tell to the web framework which template that controller has to expose. In this case, we have two expose decorators. One which tells you can render this page using this template when the browser is asking for HTML. Or you can return the content of the web page, the same you see at the end. In this case, the movie and the user that did the request, as a JSON dictionary. So if we ask for movie/free, we get the movie free in a web page. If we ask for movie/free.json, we get the JSON of that movie. And TurboGears does that all for us. Also, we have a validator in place. You can see the SQLA entity converter validator for the parameter movie. This tells TurboGears that we want an entity of type movie for the ID that gets passed as the movie argument. TurboGears will look up into our database looking for a movie that has ID 3 in this case, and if it finds one, it will provide us already the movie instance. Otherwise, in this case, it won't do anything. It will provide us none, and then we can raise a 404. Or you can place an error handler inside the validator and tell whenever there is an error, do something else. This is how a typical TurboGears project looks like. I hope you are able to read, because it's actually a screenshot, so it's not really good. And we have the config directory, where all the configuration of our application is available. We have the controllers, where all our controllers are available. The core controller is always the root controller inside the root.py file. This is how TurboGears know which controller to use to handle the root request. Then we can have any number of libraries, models, public files like JavaScript, CSS, and so on, our templates, which are accessible in a dotted notation. So if my project is called myproj, in this case, we can access the movie template asking for myproj.template.movie, because our file will be inside the templates directory of my project package. So you can actually refer to a template in any Python package, because it will look inside the Python packages, not the Python file system or things like that. We have a web setup directory, which is interesting because provides a way to set up the schema of the database and also put some default data inside the database whenever the application gets started for the first time. How TurboGears can be useful for rapid development? Well, since version 2, TurboGears adds procs and TGS CRUD. Those are three tools that makes possible to auto-generate forms and the entire CRUD controllers from the models in your database. You just tell them, well, I have a movie, now make a form to insert and edit a movie, and make a table to show the movies that I have. And it will do anything by itself. The issue is that they were quite complex to set up. You had to tell a lot of things to them. You had to tell, well, I want an add form, I want an edit form, I want a table, things that are usually obvious. You always want all of them, and only in some cases you want to remove some of them. So in the next, we call it major release, because actually the number 2 is used only to differentiate TurboGears 1 from TurboGears 2, which are actually two really different projects. In release 2.1, we had a lot of performance improvements to add logic that automatically detects some configuration options. And also it got created the EasyCrudRestController, which automatically sets up a default that provides anything you usually want. Also in 2.1.4, a lot of improvements got made to the hook system that made it possible to create pluggable applications, much like Django apps and things. So if you need something and you look inside the cockbin, the repository of TurboGears or pluggable application available, you might probably find that already made for you. This is how the EasyCrudRestController looks like. You can see that we have a search field where we can search anything of our data. You can see that some of our data has the title in blue. That's because we can sort for that data. By default, it's not possible to sort by relation or, of course, action buttons. And then we can access the edit or delete buttons, and we get redirected to a page where we have the form auto-generated to edit or create data, and the delete method is automatically generated for us. The interesting thing is that the setup of what you have seen is really simple, just 3 lines of code. You import the EasyCrudRestController, you create a controller for that type of model, in this case a gallery of photos, and you tell, well, I want a galleries controller which handles the model.gallery model. And whenever you access the URL served by this controller, you get this interface. In this case, it's actually by users, but it will be the same. Also, one of the interesting things is that the EasyCrudRestController can also be used to create API, because by default all the REST methods that it will generate will also be accessible using JSON data. So you can ask for, don't know, if we mounted this controller as /galleries, we can ask as /galleries/free.json, and we have the gallery free JSON data for free. Of course, you can customize really a lot the EasyCrudRestController. Customization can be available through some declarative interface, and most of them are available using the form options and table options. In this case, you are looking to a photos controller, which makes possible to manage photos. Okay, so we have the same 2 lines that you have seen before, which are in bold, and then under them, we are telling to the controller that we want only people inside the photos group to be able to access that controller, because we don't want anyone to touch our photos. We want to tell him that the title of the web page has to be manage photos. We want to tell him that we are going to pass a parameter named gallery to always tell him which galleries he is handling. So the list of photos we are going to see is only the photos of the gallery we asked for. Usually you don't need to use the key params argument unless you are doing nested controllers, because that's really useful if you are accessing the photos controller from a gallery controller, so you want to filter only the photos for that gallery. We are telling him that whenever he creates a form, we want to hide the author and gallery fields, because we are going to automatically set them. And we are telling him that the image field has to be of type file field, because we actually want to upload a file. We want to tell him that it has to be validated against a field storage upload converter, which simply means that it will check it is actually a file and not that someone tries to submit strange data to our controller. And we want to tell him that the author of our photos, by default, is the user that is currently logged in. Also, we have the table options, which makes it possible to customize the table interface, the listing of our data. And in this case, we are telling him that we don't want to show the author ID, the gallery ID, and the gallery itself, because we should know where we are and which gallery we are looking for. And we are going to tell him that we want to use that HTML to display the image field. So we are going to tell him just display the image as an img tag. And also you can see that in this case we used something which is called TJX Data Helpers, which provides utilities to manage data. One of the things that TJX Data Helpers provide is the ability to automatically generate thumbnails for photos. So in this case, our photo model had a field declared with TJX Data Helpers, and so we have the image thumbnail for free. Through the customizations that you have been able to see here, we are going to get this view. So you have the photo name, the photo description, the author of the photo, and the thumbnail of the photo, without having to manage anything by yourself. While CRUD are something that is usually a big part of web application. You always have to upload something, edit something, manage data, think of e-commerce or something like that. But they are not everything. There are things which are not possible to create through a CRUD controller, and we had to think of a way to speed up the development also of those things. The only and best solution possible is to have pluggable applications already made that you can reuse and that do all the work for you. That is the reason why TJX.Pluggable has been created and provided Pluggables in TurboGears. Pluggable applications are implemented inside the TJX Pluggable module, as I told, and so if you don't them, you just don't have to install the module, and you will have one less dependency, less code, less overload on your application. But if you want them, you can import them as easy as plug base config, which is the configuration of your application, pluggable application name. For example, if you want to use a registration inside our project, we can say plug base config registration. And we have a full registration interface in our project for free with email validation and so on. They look a lot like plain TurboGears application. They look a lot like these. The structure is practically the same, so whenever you are able to develop with TurboGears, you are able to create pluggable application which we will be able to reuse inside your future projects. And creating one is as easy as faster quick start pluggable application name. There is a script which is called Quick Start Pluggable, which will create all the structure for yourself and provide you a sample model, a sample controller, a sample helper, a sample template, and everything you can get started from. Actually, it's so easy that you don't have to read the documentation to get started on. You just create a pluggable application and modify the data already available, and usually it will work. The only issue is that currently it's supported only for SQL Alchemy. We are working on the MongoDB support, but it's not ready yet. So if you quick started the TurboGears application with MongoDB, you won't be able to use pluggable application. Some of the pluggable applications already available, the most used one are the registration, as I was saying before, which provides a registration process with your activation email and makes possible to configure things using a number of hooks available, like call this after my user registered, before my user registered, whenever I want to display the form, whenever the user activates through email, and all you can think of. Another pluggable application is the SmallPress, which is a small blog system which provides multi-blog, provides a WYSIWYG editor, provides a cloud attachment, draft, future, publication dates, because you can say, for example, create this blog which I want to show only in 2 days, and only which is usually useful inside the blog system. And it's also wish-based for indexed search, so it's quite fast at looking inside your blog post. Another pluggable is the FB Out application, which provides Facebook Connect support. It provides practically 3 buttons you can use inside your application, which make it possible to register using Facebook, log in using Facebook, or connect an existing user to a Facebook account. All the logic to contact Facebook, get user data, and match the login user with the Facebook user is provided by the Pluggable application itself. We have TG-App Photos, which provides photo galleries and so on, much like the example I was showing before for EasyCrudRestController. And we have User Profile, which provides a profile page for users. It shows the name, a photo from Gravatar if it is available, from Facebook if you log in using FB out, or from the model if you provided any kind of picture inside the user. And it makes possible also to extend the profile page by telling him that you want to show more data inside this profile. And then we have two models which are actually not really pluggable applications as they have been created before TGX Pluggable existed, but which are thought to be inserted inside your application. So we have the libACR module, which provides a full content management system in any TurboGears application. It provides a lot of types of data. You can think of images, HTML data, I don't know, menu auto-generated and things like that, but also provides a quick and easy way to create new type of data, so you can create products or whatever you want, and it will be possible to add that kind of data inside the web page. It's quite a flexible and powerful CMS system which you can get for free by simply plugging in libACR. Also we have Stroller, which is an e-commerce. It's PayPal-based for payment, and it has one interesting thing, that is that if you don't want to force users to log in, it can work in anonymous mode, where all the data about who bought the item gets through PayPal, so you user won't have to register to the website to be able to buy things. And that's usually something that we have seen that raises a lot the number of people that buy things, because people are lazy and they don't want to register to websites. One of the really cool and interesting pluggable applications that are available is the debug bar. The debug bar provides a lot of utilities for developers. It's much like the Pyramid, Django, Flask debug bars. All look the same and provide quite the same set of utilities. And this one provides controller profiling, so you can know where your code is low and why, because it introspects all the things that your controller did, telling you on this call it took too much time. It provides a template rendering time, so you can know that if you rendered 5 templates inside that call, you will know which one took too much time. It provides query inspection, which is something you can see inside this screenshot, even though it is probably really small. But it will show you all the query that got performed during your request, how much time they took, and you can even ask for explain or results of that query. So you can look which index they use or which results they return. One of the reasons because the debug bar is really important for rapid prototyping is that it provides the inventing mode. The inventing mode is a unique feature of TurboGears, which permits to try and experiment with your application. If you place your browser side by side with your editor, and if you enable inventing mode, whenever you change the code, the web browser will automatically reload the page. So you can see on-the-fly changes you did to your template or your controller code. Also, it is really useful because whenever you broke the code, the debug bar will become red and tell you that you broke the code before it even reloaded the web page. So it permits to detect whenever you are writing something that's wrong, or if you want to say, I don't know, I want this div, this piece of my website should be gray or should be yellow, you just change the CSS and save, and you can see on the side of your editor that it becomes yellow or gray, and you can take the one you like more. Now that we have seen the most common pluggables, we are going to see how to create new pluggables, which, as I told you, is quite easy. But we are going to see also how Pluggable works. Pluggable applications have an entry point, which is the plug me function inside their module init, and looks like that. It actually has not do anything. You can just say, hi, I'm the plug test pluggable, and I don't need global helpers. You will learn what global helpers are. Usually you don't need them, so this default is really common and works most of the time. And whenever you run test or quick start pluggable plug test, as in this example, plug test is the name of the pluggable we want to create, you will get something like this. A Python module which has some controllers, some libraries, some models, some public data, because your pluggable can provide new images, CSS, or things like that, and templates, because your pluggable probably will provide new URLs which need templates, a bootstrap module, helpers, and partial. The pluggable application controllers by default get mounted inside the URL that has the same name of the pluggable. In this case, we name the pluggable application plug test, so our controller will be mounted in /plug test. And all the URL that our pluggable provided will be available under plug test, index plug test, something else. Model of the pluggable application will be automatically bound and merged into the session of the application that is going to import the pluggable. So you don't have to mind how that model will be used. And also, if possible, to refer to models which are inside the application that is going to use the pluggable before you even know which is going to be. So you can say, you can create something like additional data for the user inside your pluggable and tell him this is related to the user of the application where I'm going to be put in. Of course, static files of your application will be available and will be served under the underscore pluggable / your pluggable name URL. Actually, it's here, but it's outside of the screen. And you can expose any of the pluggable templates as usual. We've exposed plug test and place index. Other things that the pluggable system provides for us is libraries, which by default are not exposed to the application in any way because probably they are there only for you that are writing the pluggable. And a bootstrap file, which is called by the application whenever it starts. So it can set up more data that a pluggable application requires. For example, if you are going to make an e-commerce, you probably need a default category. So your pluggable e-commerce has to have the code that creates default category inside your database and so on. That code can be put inside the bootstrap module. Pluggable can provide helpers, which are a small piece of code that generates HTML, and they will be available inside the application that is going to use the plug and through the H module, which is always available inside TurboGears templates and is the set of all the helpers available inside the application. So if we created an helper named helper name, it will be available as h.plugtest.helper name inside our application. Also, we have partials, which have some kind of evolved helpers, have some kind of more powerful helpers. They are methods with the exposed syntax. You can see them as really small controllers, which actually don't handle an URL request, but you can call them whenever you need them. Whenever you need to call a partial, you can simply call it using the h.callPartial function and display them inside your web page. For example, if you think of a profile page as the pluggable we have seen before, it is going to provide a profile page, but also a profile badge for the user that you can place inside your pages. While the profile page will be served by the controller inside the pluggable, the profile badge will be served by the partial inside the pluggable. So you can call that partial in any web page where we are going to list users or things like that. And also, TurboGears pluggable provides a bunch of utilities which are really useful for people that are going to write pluggable applications. So we can have the replace template call, which makes possible to replace template rendered by any controller in any application. This is really useful if you are going to plug in a pluggable application and you want to change the look of one of its web pages. You can say replace the profile page with this new template which has a totally different look. This permits to customize the application you are going to plug in, because usually you don't want to leave the default look of the application, and often you are not able to do all the customization you want to do just through CSS. So sometimes you have to change the template itself. It provides a plug URL. As a pluggable application don't know where they are going to be mounted and where they are going to be used, whenever you have to create a URL that refers to a pluggable application, you can use the plug URL method and tell him that you want to refer to the somewhere URL inside the plug test pluggable. And it will generate a link that points to the right URL. It provides the app model object. The app model object is a proxy through the application model. So it provides a way to refer to the model of the application where our pluggable are going to be used. Whenever you write a pluggable, if you think of the example I was doing before of adding some more data to the user of the application, you can use app model to refer to the user of the application, because it will be available as appmodel.user. And also, whenever you refer to those models, it would be really hard to create a relation to them if you don't know which is the primary key of that model, because that is where you need to create a relation. So you can detect the primary key of any model using the pluggable primary key function. Whenever you pass the model to the function, it returns the primary key of that model. So if you ever use SQL Alchemy, you can create relationships using primary key appmodel.user, and it will automatically create a foreign key to that application. Practically, pluggable applications are all I've told you here. So there is not a lot more, but probably the best part is that there are a lot of pluggable applications already made for you. So you just have to go to the Cogmin, which is the repository of applications inside the TurboGears website, and pick the one you need. There's not much more to say, so if you have more questions, feel free to join the TurboGears group, or go to the help desk, which is in front of this room. There is the TurboGears help desk out there, and they will also give you the TurboGears cheat sheet, which is really useful because it has all the information you might need during development of a TurboGears application. So that's all. If you have any question, feel free to ask.
Hello. I wanted to know, the EasyCrudRestController controller, does it do anything about concurrency, about the update action, or is that left to the user?
By default, no, because that's something that is managed not by controller itself, but by the authentication transaction layer. So the only thing you get by default is that the data you manage through the EasyCrudRestController is created transactionally at the end of the request, but nothing more. So yes, you will have some kind of concurrency issues which are resolved by default, because you are not going to have anything which is created while you are creating data, but you can still replicate data if two requests arrive at the same time. But that can easily be avoided by using a different backend system which provides indexed unique data or things like that. Okay.
So there isn't any tool inside which is asynchronous?
Sorry?
There is any tool inside TurboGears which is asynchronous?
Well, not inside the EasyCrudRestController.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the end of the first session. Now there should be the coffee break in 5 or 10 minutes. See you.